Iconic sci-fi franchises are where the money is in Hollywood right now. Just ask Lucasfilm, Marvel, DC, and just about every other studio holding a tentpole blockbuster series. Outside the world of Star Wars and superheroes, 20th Century Fox is carefully rebuilding the Alien universe with the franchise's first director, Ridley Scott. That's only a warm-up for what they're planning though, having laid the groundwork for a new installment in the Predator saga. The film should be at the very least interesting. The story behind Predator has never been a linear, episodic saga, instead giving a self-contained adventures that often cross over with Alien. The franchise has been dormant since 2010, when Adrian Brody and Topher Grace led the surprisingly decent Predators. Now, 7 years later, the timing is perfect for the resurgence of a storied albeit often mocked sci-fi series. Here's what we know so far. 1. The Predator won't be a reboot. 2010's Predator's 20th Century Fox. While reboots for 1980s 1990s franchises seem to be all the rage right now, the Predator will be taking a different tact. Not bound to any sort of canonical story, director Shane Black offers a solid reasoning behind opting out of the reboot approach. As far as Fred and I are concerned, anyway, why start over when you've all this rich mythology yet to mine? Black tells Collider, it makes a whole lot of sense to simply insert the Predator into the existing timeline, making the potential role for Arnold Schwarzenegger way more interesting given his history with the franchise. 2. Black is leading the charge as the director and co-writer Shane Black in the first Predator movie in 1987 20th Century Fox. There's a certain poetry to having Black head up to the Predator. Black briefly appeared in the original 1987 movie as Hawkins See Above, and since then has made a career for himself as a skilled director in the action-adventure genre. Penning the script with Black is Fred Dekker of RoboCop fame, giving the project all the late 80s early 90s action movie street credit could possibly need. Black's own resume is equally as impressive. His recent work as the director for Iron Man 3 salvaged a Marvel hero that many felt had fallen off with the previous movie. Black announced via Twitter in February 2017 that filming officially started on February 20th and shared an image of some of the cast. See below. Director Shane Black crouching in some of the cast of the Predator. Shane Black via Twitter. 3. The biggest Predator yet. The first still from the new Predator, released by the studio 20th Century Fox. Any movie in the Predator universe would obviously need a hefty budget, and that's exactly what Black finagled out of Fox. In an interview with HitFix, the director minces no words about what he asked for in pre-production. I said, really? Yeah, I'll spend a bunch of money. They go, yep. I go, make it really scale, spectacle, yep. Shit, that sounds interesting, he describes, teasing at what HitFix calls the biggest Predator yet. If rumors about one particular casting decision are to be believed, it sounds like that money is going to a good cause too. 4. Arnold Schwarzenegger is in talks to head up the cast. Arnold Schwarzenegger in 1987's Predator. 20th Century Fox. While there are no official reports, rumors have swirled that they're bringing back the original Predator star, Arnold Schwarzenegger. What we know right now comes from an interview Black did with Thrillist, where he tells the publication that the studio is in talks with Schwarzenegger, offering no further details on a script that he describes as still a secret. Meanwhile, Empire reports that the hero of the film will be called Quinn McKenna. Per The Hollywood Reporter, star Olivia Munn is in talks to play a scientist in the film. The publication also reports that actor Thomas Jane is also in talks to join the cast. It's unknown at this time what role he would play. 5. It'll be set in the present day. The much-maligned Alien vs. Predator Showdown from 2004. 20th Century Fox. The time period for each film in the Predator franchise has varied. Alien vs. Predator painted a picture of a millennia-old struggle between the two warring monsters, while each subsequent movie was set in the time period it was made, and The Predator will be no exception, with Black telling Collider in another interview that this one will be set in present day. In this case, the August 3, 2018 release date will be the present day we're working with here. In case you're counting, that would set the film 30-plus years after the events of the first movie. 6. The film will use practical effects to bring our titular monster to life. Shane Black tweets about CGI and practical effects in The Predator. Shane Black via Twitter. Advancements in CGI technology since the first Predator movie was released have led many to wonder whether Black's new film will issue with the prosthetics and make a digital Predator monster. Black took to Twitter to assuage those who feared that may happen, mentioning a full 7-foot-tall costume and a Predator who is not all CGI. Stay tuned for more information as it comes in. Follow Nick on Twitter at Nick Northwest. Check out Entertainment Cheat Sheet on Facebook. Page 2. For many fans of The Walking Dead, Season 7 was a challenge. It focused heavily on new themes and characters, and oftentimes felt very little like the series that became a cultural phenomenon back in 2010. After a controversial cliffhanger in Season 6, and an even more polarizing premiere in October, the series' 7th season got off to a rocky start. While it had a few killer moments, the series never quite found its footing in Negan's brave new world. Though The Walking Dead still boasts strong ratings, some fans did begin to abandon ship as Season 7 wore on. There could be a number of reasons behind the series' subtle decline in popularity. Between the loss of key characters, an increasingly dreary tone, and a chaotic storyline, the most recent slate of episodes failed to keep fans excited to tune in. Here are 10 things The Walking Dead got wrong in Season 7. 1. They botched the rollout. The Walking Dead Season 7 premiere AMC. The hype surrounding Season 7 of The Walking Dead was almost ridiculous. The previous season's stunning cliffhanger ending left just about every main character's life hanging in the balance. And millions tuned in to find out who Negan had taken down with his beloved bat, Lucille. Unfortunately, despite the hype, the Season 7 premiere was more or less a letdown. After toying with our emotions for more than 13 minutes, the day will come when you won't be finally spilled the beans on the big death mystery. We watched, in horror, as Negan beat both Abraham and Glenn to a pulp. All told, it was solid 7 minutes of gory, horrifying television. But the rest of the episode left much to be desired. It focused on Rick Grimes' complete demoralization, and set the stage for the emotionally draining episodes that followed. The issue with not only the premiere, but the entire season, was that its tone and content didn't match the energetic marketing push leading up to the 7th season. The advertisements that enticed viewers to tune in featured a grinning Negan and a "you won't believe what happens next" motif. In reality, the first half of Season 7 was TWD's bleakest yet. That's not to say the series needed to be a supercharged, adrenaline-fueled Negan fest to keep fans satisfied. But AMC and The Walking Dead ended up overpromising on excitement and a game-changing storyline that never really materialized. 2. The Negan problem. Negan. Jeffrey Dean Morgan on The Walking Dead. AMC. It's one thing to introduce a new villain on a series like The Walking Dead. It's entirely another to build a season's worth of stories around him. Negan is, without a doubt, one of the most memorable characters on TWD. But the series' creative team made a huge gamble when they chose to reorient the show around him in Season 7. And unfortunately, the gamble didn't pay off. Maybe they overestimated how much fans would like the sarcastic, sadistic leader of the Saviors. Or maybe they just didn't quite figure out how to fit him into AMC's version of The Walking Dead. While Negan's villainous ways marked a decisive turning point in the series, in most cases it wasn't a good one. Negan was billed as being the worst villain yet, but thus far, aside from offing a few beloved characters, he hasn't been nearly as interesting as, say, Shane or the Governor. If anything, his chest-beating cruelty has proven to be irritating. Despite the fact that he isn't quite the supervillain he was made out to be, his smirking, self-aggrandizing approach to the apocalypse has become a large part of what the series is about these days. That doesn't mean that the series will continue to suffer as long as Negan sticks around. But it does mean that TWD needs to figure out how to make Negan work within TWD's universe, and not how to make it all about Negan. 3. Relying on shock value instead of storytelling. Michonne in The Walking Dead. AMC. The Walking Dead has always relied on its plots, twists and turns to keep fans engaged. The same could be said of nearly every TV show ever created. But as of late, the series' creative team has given these moments a bit more weight than they're worth. This trend began in Season 6, when fan favorite Glenry was seemingly killed off, only to return a few episodes later. That plot development didn't go over well with fans, who felt TWD's writers dragged the reveal out too long. Instead of re-evaluating their take on shocking fans, though, they doubled down in Season 7. First, there was the reveal of Negan's victims. Then, there was the fact that their deaths were gorier and more graphic than arguably any other characters on the series. Later, in Episode 12, it appeared as though Rick Grimes had been bested by a horde of zombies, until he popped up after a few tense moments. The way the series has handled its major character deaths, real or fake, turned into a major problem, narratively speaking. That's because it's relied so much on making them into buzzed-about, must-see moments. Ultimately, that doesn't help bolster the series' dramatic impact. It's devalued the emotional punch that comes whenever we see our favorite characters bite the dust. 4. It became predictable. Sasha in The Sanctuary. AMC. The Walking Dead has always been good at killing off its characters. But at this point, there seems to be a formula of sorts that fans can expect to play out as a season progresses. We usually lose a character or two right before the mid-season break, and perhaps a more important character during each season finale. In Season 7, that was true. Olivia and Spencer were the earlier casualties. And poor, brave Sasha met a heroic end, with a little help from Eugene, in the finale episode, The First Day of the Rest of Your Life. The problem with these deaths isn't that they happened. It's that they felt telegraphed, because we knew that somebody was going to die. For a series that seems to rely so heavily on shock value, it's hard to pinpoint exactly how the shocking deaths now feel so commonplace. But by following the tried-and-true pattern once again in Season 7, The Walking Dead showed that it needs to genuinely rethink its narrative structure. 5. It was really depressing. Rick in The Walking Dead Season 7 AMC. Of course, a series about a zombie apocalypse isn't going to be a laugh-a-minute endeavor. But Season 7 of The Walking Dead felt hopelessly, tirelessly, and endlessly bleak. And not in a thesis the human condition at work kind of way, but in a YROS subjecting ourselves to this emotional torture kind of way. In the closing moments of the 7th season premiere, Rick imagined his friends and family sitting around a dinner table, laughing and enjoying themselves. As he did, we heard Negan taunting him, reminding him that there would be no happily ever after. That defeatist, depressing mentality permeated so much of Season 7's major stories. We've seen Rick Grimes go through plenty of ups and downs over the years. And obviously, he was eventually able to pull himself together. But seeing him so broken for so long made the entire series feel defeating. Watching Rick, Michonne, Maggie, Daryl, and the rest of our favorite characters struggle under Negan's thumb was painful in a way that seemed like it would never end. 6. There were too many players. Jadis from The Walking Dead AMC. In the early seasons of The Walking Dead, the series' scope felt very limited. As walkers overtook the roads and seemingly destroyed society, we watched Rick Grimes' crew sit around a farm and stare at maps for several episodes. These days, the series has taken the opposite approach. The characters have traveled across several states, spread out, and met several other groups of survivors. The problem in Season 7 is that there are now way too many characters to keep track of. We have Negan's Sanctuary, Gregory's Hilltop, the Kingdom, and, of course, Alexandria. There's also Oceanside, the all-female colony that Tara encountered, and Jada's scavengers, who inexplicably have their own language. The expanding ensemble makes sense, pragmatically. After all, Rick is promising a war with Negan and they're going to need a lot of foot soldiers. But in terms of keeping fans connected to the actual characters, it became a bit of a problem. We lost track of many major players for long stretches of time. The newer characters, like Ezekiel, were given grand introductions complete with plenty of exposition rather than being gradually developed over time. Ultimately, Season 7 made our connection to the characters and their allegiances feel muddy at best. And that will make it harder to stay invested in their fates when Season 8 rolls around. 7. The special effects weren't up to par. The Walking Dead's Rick in the Dump AMC. The Walking Dead has been consistently praised for its special effects, and with good reason. After all, the FX team, led by Greg Nicotero, has managed to make a zombie apocalypse seem like a thing that's actually happening on our screens. In Season 7, they expanded their horizons a bit but may have bitten off more than they could chew. Shiva, Ezekiel's tiger, was mostly an impressive display of CGI skills. But many of the other effects The Walking Dead brought to life were less effective. In New Best Friends, Rick stood in front of Jada's impressive camp, but it was obviously created on a green screen. In Say Yes, he tried to kill a deer that was hilariously fake as well. Sure, these moments are small in the grand scheme of things, but even little slip-ups like this can bring us out of the show's reality. 8. The timing was all off. Tara in The Walking Dead AMC. At its best, The Walking Dead grabs our attention and refuses to let go. Unfortunately, episodes like that were few and far between in the series' 7th season. On more than one occasion, TWD would dangle the possibility of an enticing plotline in front of us, only to switch gears the following episode. It introduced us to Ezekiel and the Kingdom, and then ignored them for so long that we almost forgot they existed. It showed us Carl's decision to sneak into the Sanctuary, then wasted the next hour showing us what Tara and Heath were up to. Instead of keeping us engaged with the myriad plot lines that emerged in Season 7, this method had the opposite effect. As soon as we were invested in one character's story, we lost track of them. And in the end, when they all converged to fight against Negan, it was hard to remember how they'd all gotten there in the first place. 9. The writing was weaker than normal. Gregory in The Walking Dead AMC. No one would ever argue that The Walking Dead is a realistic series. Fans have been willing to forgive plenty of innocuous plot holes over the years. But in Season 7, the storytelling felt especially sloppy. That's largely because it became more difficult to understand the choices the characters made. Sure, Rick was traumatized after his initial encounter with Negan. But it was incredibly difficult to truly believe that he wouldn't have at least considered stashing a gun off-site before the Saviors showed up to collect his supplies. Yes, Gregory was technically the leader at Hilltop, but why did Jesus and his people let him continually run the colony into the ground to appease Negan? And perhaps most importantly, what incentive does Jadis have to join forces with Rick when they seemed to be doing just fine on their own? The Walking Dead relies heavily on world building, and it asks us to suspend our disbelief so we can enjoy the character's journey. But these questions add up over time, and they make the world crumble over time. 10. Not all that much happened. Maggie in The Walking Dead Season 7 finale. AMC. At the beginning of Season 7, AMC told us that The Walking Dead was just getting started. Apparently, they meant that literally. Because in the 16 episodes that comprised the last season, very little actually happened. Negan killed Abraham and Glenn. Everyone was traumatized. He belittled and abused the other colonies. Eventually, after he came knocking on their door and tormented them enough, they decided they were ready to fight. Realistically, that entire storyline could have been condensed into half a season. We spent several hours waiting for the moment that Rick, Maggie, Daryl, and the rest of the crew would finally start to fight back. In the end, we barely got a taste of their retaliation. While the prospect of a more action-oriented Season 8 is appealing, it doesn't negate the frustrating impact of Season 7's glacial pacing. Once again, we're left to wait for a real, substantial payoff, and in many ways, it feels like we've already been waiting a very long time. Follow Catherine Webb on Twitter at ProofRocks. Check out Entertainment Cheat Sheet on Facebook.